Hey, it's been a while, huh, guys? Well, I've been quite busy in my real life, but I finally found some free time for me to record a new video. Throughout my time away, I've been thinking a lot about geometry dash levels. I know, very random. And one that stood out to me and interests me recently has been Cybernetic Crescent. In the technology trilogy, Cybernetic Crescent has always been the odd level out of the three, being stylistically different from the first two. And before, I've always seen it in a more negative light, but recently the level has been growing on me, and I genuinely think it is the best level in the trilogy. With that, I'm going to rate the parts of Cybernetic Crescent, so let's get into it by analyzing the decoration, the gameplay, and how well it aged. So we start out with Codex, which is such a neat quirk of the trilogy, with all levels starting out with this part, and for good reason. His spot in this level, unironically, is the best part of the entire level in terms of its theme. It feels modern, which fits with the rest of the level, but also has that old school tech theme all over it, which more aligns with the earlier levels. Also, compared to his spots in Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent, this spot has a nice mixture of warm and cool colors, which fits so well with the calm, soothing sounding part of the song. Overall, I think this part feels more like a transitional section between the early 2.1 style of Digital Descent and the then modern style of Cybernetic Crescent. And I think that's neat. In terms of gameplay, I mean, it's the very beginning of the level, there's nothing really special about it, it's not hard or offensive. So yeah, decoration, I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10. The gameplay is an 8 out of 10, and how it aged, 10 out of 10. I think this part is very timeless. Move on to Shockcidian's part, and man, I really go through a roller coaster of emotions at the very beginning of this level because, in contrast to Codex, Shockcidian's part kinda stings. Yeah, I think this and another part later in the level are the worst sections of the level. Cybernetic Crescent has this vibe of being sleek and modern with a lot of details and more complicated effects. But Shockcidian's part is such an outlier in contrast. On its own, it's actually not too bad, but I just think it doesn't fit at all with the rest of the level. The gameplay of this part is decent enough. I mean, we're still at the very beginning, so it's nothing special, but it's weirdly claustrophobic and also kind of tough, which doesn't fit with the song at all, which still feels very warm and spacious. Now that I think about it, actually, part of the reason why I dislike this section is because the decoration doesn't reflect the song properly. So the decoration is a 5 out of 10. The gameplay is a 7.5 out of 10. It's not bad, but it's just not really representative of the song and how it aged. I don't know, I'll give it a 5, I suppose. This next part is weird because I don't really know how I feel about it, to be frank. I think the best word to describe this section is that it's unpolished. On one hand, I do love the weird alien looking details in the structures, the sauce, and I don't know, the football looking thing. I really don't know what that's supposed to be, but I mean, I get the vibe that I'm in an unfamiliar technological world or an alien spaceship, But everything else about this spot is a bit too basic in contrast to every other part, such as like the background, the spikes, and the air deco. They're just too simple and incomplete. The gameplay is deceptively easy because when you watch the part being played, it looks simple and straightforward. But there are actually quite a few quirks with the op timings that you have to keep in mind. But I mean, it's not like it's difficult or anything, it's still doable. So the decoration, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I mean, it could have been better if like it's more consistent throughout the entire section. The gameplay is a 7.5 out of 10. It's pretty fun, and how it aged, I give it a maybe a 6 out of 10. Yeah, 6 out of 10. So This gives me Codex's vibes from the very beginning with the warm colors and also in a way the block design, but the only difference being that Freddy Funky's structuring is more scattered and they are layered, I suppose. The background also looks very technical, digital, all the buzzwords. Along with Codex, when you see this part for the first time, you can already tell that it's supposed to be themed after technology, which is good. The only thing holding this section back, however, is the lack of details in the middle of the screen. Now, I know that's kind of counterintuitive because you want the gameplay to be clear, but I also think you could add some things in the middle to fill up the space a little bit. So the decoration, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's almost perfect. It feels a little bit empty in the middle of the screen. The gameplay, 6 out of 10. I mean, yeah, I don't like the robot, but then again, this section is quite short, so you're not gonna suffer through it that much. And how it aged, 8 out of 10. I think till this day, it still looks really good. Galvatron's part honestly disappointed me when I first saw it. And while that feeling of disappointment has went away mostly, I still feel a little bit of it now because it could have been so much more. We saw what Galvatron made in Artificial Ascent and Digital Descent, being one of the best parts of those levels. But in this, it just feels thematically distant. It would fit more in a modern style level like AQ or something, but in Cybernetic Crescent, not as much. You know what this part reminds me of? Those wall murals in a huge corporate tech company's building where there's a lot of bold lettering spewing motivational nonsense or words that loosely tie in to the company, and bold colored shapes to make it feel surreal and abstract or something. Please tell me you got the vibe. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But yeah, the gameplay is, in a way, it's a little bit satisfying with the timings and the fast jumps that you have to pull off that syncs with the music pretty well. So the decoration is a 7 out of 10. It still doesn't look that bad, it still looks pretty good, but I just think the theme of it kinda, did minus points for me. The gameplay is a 7.5 out of 10, satisfying. And how it aged, 7 out of 10. It's decent, but it could have been so much more. Nazgub's section really reminds me of the Matrix films design with the green color and the characters in the blocks, but instead of the ones and zeros from Matrix, it's some fictional alien characters that apparently actually has some meaning behind it because each character corresponds to a letter in English. Bro didn't need to do all that, but he did anyways, and it's respectable and impressive. I love the yellow to contrast with the green, adding some warmth to the part since the song's pre-drop generally is warm sounding, so it's a nice form of representation of that. I love the grid lines and the wavy lines in the background, which further adds to the technology vibe of this part. The only problem I have with this section is how short it is. I wish there was more of it for me to appreciate. And okay, the gameplay as well is another problem because it's actually quite hard with how awkward the gaps are and how awkward the patterns that you have to do. So the decoration is a 9 out of 10. Pretty solid, very good, almost perfect. The gameplay, 6.5 out of 10, mostly because of how awkward and difficult it is. And how it aged, 9 out of 10. It's one of the most iconic parts in probably all of GD actually. This next section is really funny to me because for the longest time I thought, wow, Vibrant really stepped up his decoration game because the section genuinely looks really good and his name is very obvious in the middle of the screen. But upon looking closely, there's another name present in this part, Enzor. Now, I don't know if I'm the only one that's like discovering this now. Maybe it's common knowledge. Maybe it's just me, but I never noticed his name being there. But yeah, automatically I knew, okay, yeah, it was him that was responsible for the decoration. I mean, apparently he's the guy that made Leyak, so I mean, it makes sense. Anyways, with that being said, it still looks really good. I'm not gonna dock any points for that. I mean, the effects are pretty cool. It gives the vibe of being, being tense, being, ooh, what's going to happen next? And it reflects with the song very well because the song is like, going crazy, going to the drop, right? And it's like, well, I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean. I mean, the structures are pretty basic though. I mean, it's just a gradient style, but the effects make up for it. The gameplay, nothing really special. I literally don't know what to say about it. It's like the most generic gameplay ever. It's not too difficult, but it's not too easy. The decoration, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think if the structures have a little bit more to it, I would put it higher. The gameplay, 8 out of 10. I mean, it's just solid. And I'm not saying it's bad, it's just generic, but it's solid. And how it aged, 8.5 out of 10. Actually, like one of the better parts of the levels. One thing I gotta say about this next section is that holy shit, Samifying really knows how to make an intense drop pod. Because this section is filled with so much energy, bursting with energy. The gameplay being very fast, dynamic, along with the color usage with the pulsars and the saturated colors being used, really sell the drop pod so much you can feel it in your bones. This is what Tidal Wave wanted to be so badly but failed miserably. Because with this style of the over decorated kind of thing that Samifying has, in theory it should make this section feel messy like how it is in Tidal Wave, but it ends up being surprisingly pleasant on the eyes. There's so much variety with each structure, which I'm sure took a lot of time to come up with, and also a sense of scale which makes the player feel small and insignificant, reflecting the song at its climax where it sounds big and intense. More impressively, even with the amount of detail in this section, the gameplay remains very visible and readable, which is an art form that is dying in the current landscape, as most levels now are very unreadable with the amount of clutter on the screen and like the on-screen effects. So yeah, I mean, overall, an amazing part. The decoration, I have to give it 9.5 out of 10. It's almost perfect, but you can tell it has aged a little bit compared to like this level Sedulous, right? Gameplay, 7.5 out of 10. It's very hard. And how it aged, I'll give it a 9 out of 10, even though it isn't as refined as Samifying's other levels Sedulous. It's still a really amazing part. With how good Samifying's part is, Vlax's section in contrast does feel a bit of a letdown. This is the part that I was referring to earlier as being tied with Shoxidian as being the worst parts of the level. The color usage in this part is decent and reflects the song, but everything else just feels too basic. It just looks like a 2.0 part being dropped in the middle of this level. The structures are too basic, the details are fine, but again, too basic. The gameplay is kinda tough, especially with the spam part at the end, heading into the Devons part later, and the ship with the black orbs that you have to avoid sometimes feel kind of random with the hitboxes. But other than that, I mean, the gameplay is the least offensive aspect of this section. So the decoration, unfortunately, is only a 5 out of 10. The gameplay, 7 out of 10, and how it aged, 5.5 out of 10. Not really that great. Watching and playing this part is the Geometry Dash equivalent of being drunk, being high on drugs, while bashing your balls in with a sledgehammer because, pardon my French, but what in the fuck is going on? No joke, it took me half an hour just to get through it and figure out the correct path through this section. So yeah, I mean, fuck the gameplay. The design when looking at a static image of it looks okay, but in motion, especially with the changing elevation, it just looks like a mess. There's also this ugly connecting deco in the background that just makes it look even more cluttered than it already is. I don't know the thought process behind it. A lot of the structures are just black with some 3D effect on its edges, which looks a little bit uninspiring. But honestly, with the amount of shit going on, I actually appreciate that simplicity, because could you imagine a more detailed structure with, you know, all of that shit going on? Yeah, it's gonna be a mess. You don't even know what's going on. I mean, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think this part is worse than Vlex. I take that back. Vlex's section in comparison to this looks infinitely better. It's more readable. So yeah, take that, Devin. The decoration, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. The gameplay is a 2 out of 10. Yeah, it's just like the worst shit ever. And how it aged, 5 out of 10. It's infamous at least. I would have given it even lower. Dude, finally, we're back to the good parts, and of course, the man that delivers that promise is Sarpanch. His section really makes me feel like I'm going through an impossibly huge mechanical structure that is not from this world at all, and that is reflected by the massive structures that you have to dodge, and also in the foreground, which really adds to that sense of depth to this section. I also love the flashing, rotating glow objects, which gives off that cyberpunk kind of dreadful cold vibe, making it feel more menacing. I mean, what more can I say? It's Sarpanch, the GOAT. His attention to detail with his effects is unmatched. It sucks that in normal gameplay you can't appreciate the details in the structures and the background, because you move so fast through it that it's kind of hard to spot every detail. I mean, the gameplay is also fun and gives off that same huge spacious vibe that the decoration gives off, with how much you go through the top and the bottom of the screen with the slopes and the orbs. It's such a perfect send-off for the drop of the level. So the decoration, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. I think in motion it looks a little bit messy. The gameplay, 7.5 out of 10. It's short. And how it aged, 8 out of 10. It's kind of iconic in a way, you know? Now, this next section is very weird because I used to actually enjoy it, but after analyzing it a little bit more, I'm starting to dislike it. Not that it's a bad part overall, it's just not as good as how I remembered it to be. And I think the main culprit is the structures of this section, because it's way too simple. It's just a bunch of squares with minimal detail on them, which compared to other parts like Codex, Furtive Funky, it's lacking. I do like the TV static kind of effect with the grey blocks. I think that's a neat touch, but otherwise, the rest of the structures could do with an overhaul. The background, air deco, and source, however, are quite solid and well detailed, which is such a strange contrast to the structure. So the decoration, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Before, I would give this like 8.5 maybe. Gameplay is a 7.5 out of 10. It's challenging, but it's readable, it's okay. And how it aged, 6.5 out of 10. Yeah, I just think this part didn't age that well in my mind. And finally, Terrance's part. I think his section would fit more in Digital Descent rather than Cybernetic Crescent, because the decoration is way too basic to fit in with Cybernetic Crescent. But aside from that, it's kind of decent, I guess. The structures contain weird symbols and shapes that resemble hieroglyphs or alien language, and the glow in the background looks like a rave, so that's cool. I love the second half of this section though, with the white structures contrasting the background. It gives me a lot of, medieval castle vibes but futurized, which could actually be a cool concept because it would stand out more. Because currently, Terrance's part is kind of forgotten at the end, right? People don't really think about it that much. But with that concept, if it was expanded upon and fleshed out, could very well be one of the better parts of this level. The gameplay is kinda annoying, especially right at the very end with the duel, because holy shit, it's so easy to mess up the click patterns and just die. It's really nerve-wracking. Imagine dying there in an actual run. So the decoration is a 7 out of 10. It's fine, but I think it could do with more details. The gameplay is a 6 out of 10, nothing special, and that duel kinda sucks at the end. And how it aged, 6 out of 10. It's forgettable. And there we go, that is all of the sections in Cybernetic Crescent. Now, closing thoughts, I think Cybernetic Crescent is a very, jarring level because the good parts are really good, like Codex, Furry Funky, Semiflyings, or Punch. They're like really good, really quality, but the less good parts, the kind of bad parts, they're pretty bad, and like you can definitely tell, like Vlak, Shoxidian, Devon, like these parts, they just don't fit in with the rest of the level at all. And I still think that Cybernetic Crescent is the best level in the series because even with the bad parts around, I still think the overall quality is better than Digital Descent and definitely better than Artificial Ascent. But it could have been goated status if, Viprin swapped out those creators like Vlak or Shoxidian. If he swapped them out with better modern creators of that time, I think, this level could be so much more. So that's really about it. I wish I can upload more videos, but I'm currently very busy, so I can't promise more videos. But I'll definitely try to work on them with the free time that I have. So yeah.